Kashmiri Pandits once again being targeted, even though they're present in the valley in very small numbers. But it's also pushing away any idea of lots of Kashmiri Pandits returning to the valley, which is what the community would like, which is what the government says it would like as well, but unable to provide protection on the ground. And this phenomena of hybrid terror, which we've spoken of in the past on the news track, continuing to proliferate. Instead of big terror groups, you've got individuals going out, carrying out these targeted killings, and then quickly melting into the crowds. How should the administration really be dealing with these targeted killings, and where are we going wrong? What needs to be done to fix things? Joining us on this broadcast, Sanjay Tikku, President of the Kashmiri Pandit Sangharsh Samiti. Sesh Paul Vaid is the former Director General of Police in Jammu and Kashmir. Representing the BJP, its spokesperson, Dr. Syed Zafar Islam, representing the Congress, Charan Singh Sapra, and Ifra Jan represents the National Conference. I want to go across to Sanjay Tikku first. The government says our intention is right. We're doing the best that we can. We would like Kashmiri Pandits to come back. These are targeted killings, and we're trying our best to ensure that they stop. Where do you think our current strategy, Sanjay Tikku, is going wrong? What would you like to see the government do more?
Thank you for calling me top measures. Actually, what we are facing for last 32 years, and we remain in the valley during the peak of the terrorism and separatism. But unfortunately, from October last year till today, we are feeling as we are stepsons of Govt of India and the UP administration. Because in last year also, when Mr. Bindro was totally killed at his court, and there was around 30 customers here which were from the majority community, and they could not save him at that time. So his vision is today also. So onus is on Govt of India, what they are claiming as on date. There is no doubt that security forces are after the militant. But I want to ask the panelists, the Govt of India, especially the Home Minister. We thought about always for last 40 years that Pakistan is sponsoring this all terrorism. We all know it. But tell me one thing, it's a chain. The one end of the chain is in Pakistan, and one end of the chain is somewhere in Kashmir or outside Kashmir. Why the intelligence people can't break that chain? That's the number one point. Number two, I don't need condemnation on WhatsApp, social media. I requested in October last year also, and after that 2 months also, I issued a statement that to the majority community that we come forward, especially in those areas where our Kashmiri Pandits or other minorities are living. But nobody came forward, and there was no any political party that includes the BJP, who is running the show at center and as well as in UP. They didn't come forward. So what is the fun when you see today there is a candle march is going on in Lal Chowk? So few people. Hello.
I hear you. Go on.
So few people are there. So it doesn't mean that I am safe. My 808 families are safe, or my the PM package employees are safe. There are around 20,000 Kashmir that includes the Kashmiri Pandits and Hindus are living presently in the valley, and the security scenario is like that. If you talk to any officer, he says everything is okay. ये तो चलता रहता है. When it is चलता रहता है, then why we should give? Because I want to tell you, on from 1st June 1990 till today, the non-migrants have given around 550 sacrifices for this.
Okay, you made a few very important points, and I want to put those questions to Syed Zafar Islam. Mehbooba Mufti referred to it when she called it manufactured normalcy. You ask someone in the BJP, whether it's at the Union Territory or at the center, even in the Mood of the Nation opinion poll that we carried out last week, to everyone else it appears Article 370 being abrogated was one of the BJP government's big achievements. For people like Sanjay Tikku on the ground, they say, what has changed? We are still as unsafe and as vulnerable as we were 30 years ago. You are doing symbolic protests on social media. This means nothing for the 20,000 plus Hindus who are in Kashmir, who are as unsafe on your watch, Zafar Islam, as they were on the watch of the UPA.
Let me respond to that, Rahul. First of all, I'm sorry, but I tend to disagree with his analysis and his opinion. Having said that, let me give you some statistics. Perhaps that will make him understand that what has changed and how the dynamic has changed since 5th August 2019, when the overall terrorist activities has come off significantly. The stone pelting has come off, has completely stopped. The number of civilians who have been the victim in the past, prior to 2019, it has come off again. The overall loss of our army personnel, that has also come off. And the targeted, we had identified the terrorists and we have killed them. That number has gone up significantly. So that only suggests that there is a concerted effort on the part of the government to ensure that we must bring peace and we must fail if we make everyone.
But the government can't give itself certificates. People like Sanjay Tikku, Sayyid Zafar Islam are on the ground. They're saying we're not feeling the change. We voted for you. You promised us safety. You haven't been able to secure us. We feel as unsafe on your watch as we did earlier. You can't tell us sab changa si. We don't think sab changa si.
No, see, this is not a general perception, but today, because it's a very unfortunate incident which has happened, and that's why perhaps he's been extremely vocal, and maybe he is a little emotional. That's why he's been able to tell such thing which is factually incorrect. We have tried every possible way, and we will continue to do that, and we will ensure that when terrorist activities had stopped or had come off significantly, then this kind of targeted killing with young boys who do not look like terrorists, they look like a student, and then if some of the photos which is being shown on your screen, just see there's like a student carrying a bag, a shoulder bag, and then suddenly taking out a pistol and firing.
Sanjay Tikku has his hand up. He's itching to come in and respond. You're saying essentially stone pelting is down, more terrorists are being killed than earlier, things are getting better. You are making a big deal because one Kashmiri Pandit was killed. That one instance can't be the larger big picture.
How can they say it like that? It is 808 families who are facing the burden of the militancy in the terrorism in the valley for last 32 years. How can they say there is a normalcy on the ground zero? Please tell me how many people were there in that stadium on 15th of August to watching the unfurling of the Independence Tiranga? How can they say that?
How many were there?
How can they say that,
Let me respond.
It is a small incident? If it is a small incident, let them come to Kashmir. Let the BJP or other parties fight with the KRF. We want to live somewhere. We want to die somewhere in
Rahul,
India.
it's a sensitive question.
It is not an emotional impulse. The only people who have been killed as on date, the person who have been killed today has 4 daughters.
Let me
What
respond.
will give them ultimately?
Okay, Sayyid Zafar Islam, you're sitting in an air-conditioned studio in Delhi declaring that we are near normal in Jammu and Kashmir. Sanjay Tikku and others like him who are on the ground in Srinagar say, no sir, we are nowhere close to normalcy. You seem to be living in a bubble of your own making.
No, I never said that we have been able to achieve complete normalcy in the valley. But what I'm trying to tell you that, and Mr. Tikku, that's the thing. Yeah, things have changed. Things are improving. Things are getting better. And because of the measures which we are being taken by the government, it is improving. Because we are dealing with a menace. Terrorism is a menace. And we are dealing very sternly with and taking all the precautions and security for the army, for the people, and also targeting terrorists to neutralize them. But let me also admit that there are there must be some threats, and we must improve us. It will be analyzed, this targeted killing, and the government will take appropriate action to ensure that even people who are there feeling insecure, their security must be strengthened and they must feel safe and secure.
SP Vaid,
something which
we're
will be
hearing
done definitely by the government.
Perspective of a Kashmiri Pandit who's on the ground. We're hearing from the BJP spokesperson at the center. You've led the Jammu and Kashmir police. Where does the reality actually lie? The government would like to project that things are getting better. In some ways they are. Stone pelting is indeed down. But that can't be the only measure. This whole phenomena of hybrid terror seems to have come to the fore. The government at this moment doesn't seem to be certain of how to deal with it, because they just come out of the local community, shoot, go back. It's not like they're going across the LOC. The average age of terrorists is coming down. How should the government really be responding to this aspect of hybrid terror, which is now front and center in terrorism in Kashmir?
Rahul, there is no denying of the fact that terrorism is, if you see various parameters, is coming down. Government has taken on head-on against the terrorist, and even the ecosystem is being targeted, which was perpetuating for last many decades, about 7 decades here in Jammu and Kashmir, and it will definitely take time, but you see last 8-9 months, ever since there was a report of ISI chief holding a meeting in Muzaffarabad, switching over to with a new technique of hybrid terrorism. You are seeing this phenomena, and it is after having lost their cadres, their weapons to the security forces. This is a new strategy they have adopted, and see, we need to deny the terrorist soft targets, and wherever they will get chance. Today it is Kashmiri Pandit.
How do you deny the terrorist soft targets? There are 20,000 plus people from the Hindu community staying across the valley. How do you fight hybrid terror if a local boy just picks up a gun, shoots somebody, goes back to his school, college or village? How should you, if you were DGP at this time, what would you be doing? What's not being done at this moment?
See, Rahul, I think the basic premise of present Kashmiri Pandits living in remote areas when terrorism is going on is very, very, I find it faulty. In a remote village in Shopian, can you imagine, you provided this man a guard, but he has to go to the farm. One of his colleagues was running medical shop. How do you protect such people? And unless we have a foolproof system to ensure, I think we are throwing these Kashmiri Pandits as soft targets to the terrorists. Similarly, you have to ensure the kind of security which those who are living in Kashmir, that they are not targeted like what you saw in 1990, the Jammu government, Jammu employees in the Darbar move. I think we need to ensure that they are properly guarded. But
okay, let me put that question to Sanjay Tikku. I've reported from Shopian as an adult. Our cavalcades, when my dad was a commanding officer in the valley, used to pass through Shopian. It's been dangerous territory for the Indian Armed Forces for decades now. Sanjay Tikku, you've got the likes of SP Vaid saying you can't have a situation where people from the minority community are staying in remote places. Shopian is dangerous per se. If you want to be living in a place as remote as that, securing your family, even if you have the odd guard, is very difficult, and the Pandit community needs to realize that.
Yeah, we agree. I agree with Mr. Vaid, because we met several times when he was the worthy DGP. I agree fully with him, but that's why in October we request the government and even the Home Minister also that there are the far-flung Pandits who are living in far-flung areas. They are willing to move to Srinagar. They are not willing to move to Jammu. So provide them the proper accommodation in Srinagar, and along with that,
Has anything been provided since? Sanjay Tikku, has anything been provided by the government?
No, 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 no.
Syed Zafar Islam, I remember when I last did a discussion after another Kashmiri Pandit had been killed, the government at that time had said, we will set up enclaves where the Kashmiri Pandits are living in numbers, come and stay in those enclaves. Sanjay Tikku says, between the last time and now, you've talked but done nothing.
No, it's unfair to make that statement that the government is not doing anything and government is merely being a spectator. You heard Mr. Vaidya, he was a cop there and he was a DGP. We are talking about the remote places where such incident is taking place, and still government is deploying security personnel, even smaller village, to ensure that everybody feels safe and secure. We will further strengthen, government will take appropriate measures. Even we will consider them moving to Srinagar if should they want to move to Srinagar, but everybody doesn't want to move. There are some people who are vocal about it, but many people, they do not want to move out of their homes and relocate themselves to Srinagar or Jammu or any other place. So, of course, Mr. Tikku is stating here that we can move a lock, stock, barrel in Srinagar, but that is not a reality. We have also spoken to many people. They all feel comfortable living there, even though sometimes they feel insecure and they feel that they are not safe. It is our job to ensure that they feel safe and secure, and we will deploy more and more security personnel there.
Sanjay Tikku, he's saying some Pandits have refused to move, that's where they stay, and it's natural and understandable. If somebody comes from a village in Shopian, he won't want to uproot where he's living. He'll have a nice house, he'll be used to staying over there. He won't want to live in some small accommodation provided by the government in Srinagar.
That we become the scapegoats for the terrorists. Nah? I want to live, I want to save my family. So where should I go? Because I cannot go to Jammu because I am not registered migrant. And I have no place in Jammu. That is why we requested the government of India and the LG administration, let you provide some security zones within the valley in the Srinagar or at district headquarters. Whenever whenever any family feels unsafe, let them be shifted there. So I am not asking anything that entire army should be given to us for protection. No.
Singh Sapra, the macro reality is that stone pelting is indeed down, that more terrorists are being neutralized. The kind of role that big organizations had, big terror organizations like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, that's been severely curtailed. So the Home Ministry and the BJP government will say, we've made advances, yes, things aren't normal yet, but in comparison with how things were on your watch, we are now attacking the ecosystem of terror which your government refused to touch. Charan Singh Sapra.
See, Rahul, first of all, I would like to condemn the killing which has happened today and speedy recovery for Sunil Bhatt's brother who is now in the hospital. I would also like to give my condolences to the ITBP Jawans who unfortunately met with the accident, and probably many of them have died also. As far as this current issue is concerned, let me remind you, Rahul, that in last 6 months, like from February 2022 till date, there have been 17 target killings. Now, if there are 17 target killings, it is a matter of concern. The government should look into it. The government needs to answer some questions also. What is the policy for the Kashmir? If terrorists are changing their pattern, what is the roadmap or the new roadmap of this Narendra Modi government to tackle terrorism or to fight terrorism in Kashmir? They are not talking on that. And probably I would also like to say, like Mr. Tikku now said, that they should consult the stakeholders also. They should discuss with the Kashmiri Pandits. Now, I feel if not only Kashmiri Pandits, but even the Muslims are being shot dead, the Sikh community people are shot dead, the Bihari laborers are shot dead, anybody who believes in tricolor or anybody who believes in the Constitution of India is being targeted over there. So it is a serious situation. BJP cannot get away by saying that we have improved this, the stone pelting has reduced. The issue is that when they will put a full stop to this target killing, what is their new policy?
Okay,
is there a policy paralysis which the entire country is looking
Islam
at?
Respond to it. If the terrorists have a new policy,
as far as targeting,
what is your roadmap of dealing with targeted killings?
Sorry?
How do you, Syed Zafar Islam, intend to provide safety and security given the onset of this new phenomena of hybrid terror?
See, as you rightly mentioned also, and I was repeatedly telling you that the organized terrorism by terrorist organization that has been severely curtailed. But this new phenomena has come up where students, young boys and young professionals, they come across as a professional or student, and they are resorting to this kind of a hybrid terrorism. But the government has, and of course the Ministry of Home Affairs had a very detailed meeting even today, and they are also deliberating, taking every input from everyone, from the DGP, from the army, from the forces, and I'm sure that they will take appropriate action, appropriate decision to deal sternly with this kind of situation as well. Because overall, if you see, the terrorism has come off, and that's why they are resorting to this kind of tactics where they will never come across as a terrorist, but as a student, as a professional.
No, but it's the new reality. You can't get away by saying that because they've taken action, therefore they've changed their tactics. You need to have a better explanation of why are young professionals and young students picking up the gun as early as they are, and what do you intend to do to ensure this stops? Ifraj, you've got a statement out from the KPSS, the Kashmiri Pandit Sangharsh Samiti, asking Kashmiri Pandits to leave the Kashmir Valley. The government very keen that they stay and continue to grow their numbers. However, what do you think the government should be doing? What is it that you think is wrong with the current strategy? What would you like to see the government do?
You see, for past 90 days, Kashmiri Pandits are actually sitting on roads at various points, protesting and saying that they want to go back. In fact, if you heard the relatives of Mr. Sunil, who was shot dead today, even his relatives said something similar, saying that we've been protesting and they've been protesting against the administration. So KPSS has not just suddenly come up with this statement asking Kashmiri Pandits to leave. It's been building up for a lot of time, but unfortunately, the BJP government, instead of focusing on what our minorities are going through, is constantly going and it's constantly working on this, as it's been said, manufacturing a sense of normalcy for everybody else, so that their electorate in the rest of the country is happy and they do not get to know what the actual reality on ground is. One thing we have now, thankfully, I guess, or very eerily, I must say, noticed is that article, one thing we have clearly noticed is that every measure that the BJP government has taken so far, unfortunately, has not led to the end of terrorism in the valley. And in fact, whatever measures they've taken has actually backfired. And now Article 370 abrogation, which I have constantly called, the National Conference has constantly called, as punishment to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, has not worked. So it's very clear that the first thing that the BJP government should be doing is stopping this collective punishment to the 1,20,00,000 people of Jammu and Kashmir by taking away their right to vote and to form a state assembly, by literally degrading them into a union territory, by humiliating them. So that is the first thing that the BJP government should absolutely not be doing. And the second thing which is constantly being said is that Article 370 led to situation getting better. On the other hand, the same contradictory statement that I heard is that it's now led to a very dangerous sort of terrorism, the hybrid terrorism which has come to forth.
We are calling hybrid terrorism a side effect of the abrogation of Article 370. Let Syed Zafar Islam respond. The fact that hearts and minds are disconnected more than they were earlier, which is why young students and young professionals are picking up the gun without having to go to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir for indoctrination. They're getting indoctrinated staying right here because that's how irritated and angry and frustrated they are.
Well, it is absolutely baseless, Rahul, because all the statistics suggest that prior to abrogation of Article 370, what was happening in the state and the valley and what is happening currently. You can see the statistics, you can see the numbers, and you can your own infer that how the situation has improved. You see the number of tourists visited Jammu and Kashmir. Every room was sold out in Jammu and Kashmir this year. What does that suggest? The people are feeling comfortable, people are feeling secure, people are feeling that there is a momentum, there is a positivity in the valley.
Tourism is no proxy for how locals feel, sir. Tourism is not a proxy for how locals feel.
I'm not saying that. No, let me just complete. Of course, it is. And because they see that the business is growing, they see what Kashmir is known for tourism, and that was something which was not happening in the past. Now at least they see there's a lot of momentum there, people are coming, and business is flourishing, and they're extremely happy. Also, the welfare scheme, which never used to reach in the valley, but now it is reaching to the common man in the valley, and they are extremely happy that there's a government which is actually safeguarding their interests by providing them a lot of support. So it is unfair to say even that Article 370, after abrogation of Article 370, students or young minds have actually taken a different stand than they should have been taking. In fact, they are feeling much better.
Okay, let Ifra Jan respond to this, because just as a personal anecdote, we were trying to book we were trying to book a room in Gulmarg, Ifra, for New Year's. I want to take my young son, I want to teach him skiing. We couldn't get a room because those rooms were already booked out. We're only in August and this is for December, which suggests, as Syed Zafar Islam would say, that more and more people are going and more hotels are coming up in places like Gulmarg. More room capacity is being created because Kashmiris are investing now in the Kashmir story because they see things getting better.
You see, you are actually right when it comes to tourism numbers in this year. But this has been the biggest number last 10 years in the mid. Under the National Conference government in 2008 and 2009 especially, we have actually had more tourists come in. So it's actually an achievement for the BJP government that for the first time they've been able to match the National Conference numbers on tourism. Again, tourism is no metric for how a Kashmiri Pandit is feeling. You, Zafar Islam sahab, cannot go to the Kashmiri Pandit family today and say, "Arey, itne tourists aa rahe hain, aap kyun pareshan ho rahe hain?" We, for that matter, we have Ravinder Rana sir, who is the president of Kashmiri in state BJP. He actually said that we will punish the perpetrators. Ever since he has made that statement, 90 civilians have died, out of which around 60 have been Kashmiri Muslims. Now, one last point that Mr. Zafar Islam has been saying is that Kashmiris are happy, Jammuites are happy to not get to speak on the behalf of the electorate. The electorate speaks through vote. But unfortunately, the BJP government has not allowed the people of Jammu and Kashmir to vote in their state assembly for last 9 years.
As you can see in those images, Kashmiri Pandit, Syed Zafar Islam protesting in different parts of the Union territory. They want to leave. The government doesn't want them to leave, naturally, because you made so much effort for them to come and stay in different parts of the valley. You want to show that they are going back. If they leave in big numbers, it would appear that there is tension and panic, which there is, and that the strategy of getting Kashmiri Pandit families to go back to the valley has failed. Because you want to project normalcy, therefore the likes of Sanjay Tikku would argue that you're imperiling their lives, you're putting them in danger because you desire that there be a projection of near normalcy.
No, Rahul, again, this is your assessment of what I said. The fact that what I was trying to drive a point that it is getting better. It is getting closer to normalcy. The situation has improved post abrogation of 370, and we will make sure, and we are committed to provide safety and security to every person in the valley, including our brother and sister from Pandit
SP,
community.
let's leave politics on the
security.
side for a moment. From a policing and law and order perspective, and from India's interests, it is clear that the more Kashmiri Pandits stay in the valley, the better it is. You want to ensure that this migration is reversed, yet you don't want to imperil their lives and put them in harm's way. This idea of hybrid terror is a reality. What should the local administration and the police be doing to try and counter these various strains that are playing themselves out at the same time?
See, Rahul, we must understand that Pakistan has invested 3.5 decades here in Kashmir, and for it, it's a situation of do and die, particularly after abrogation of Article 370 and things returning to better normalcy. But coming to your question, see, those Kashmiri Pandits who are staying in Kashmir Valley, if I am in charge, I will ensure that they are properly put in. We have a detailed scheme drafted and put that in place on the ground. Ensure that none of them now becomes another Rahul. But that has to be minimum to ensure. Number two, go after the terrorists, which is already happening, and also we must focus on the human resource. Why are still some young boys joining terrorism? That aspects need to be studied.
Do you agree with IFRA's charge that a lot of these young students and professionals are joining as a consequence of the abrogation of 370 because they feel disconnected and frustrated?
I don't think it 370 and this has a relation. I think we need to go into all these factors and put in place those steps to ensure that not a single boy from Kashmir joins terrorist ranks, and plug the inflow of small weapons which is coming through drones, through various other means. I think a full action plan needs to be put in place.
Sanjay Tikku, I'd let you have the last word as I wrap up this discussion on the news track. You've put out a call for Kashmiri Pandits to leave. Nobody would like that to happen, yet no one would like them to be unsafe. What do you think is the most concrete and practical next step?
First of all, it's now 9 months when first Kashmiri Pandits was killed in October. And the BJP spokesperson is saying that the Govt of India is working on various plans. But I fail to understand it. It is such a thing that लोग मरते जाए, चलता रहता है, 2 कश्मीरी पंडित मारे गए, 2 मुसलमान मारे गए, ये होता रहता है. ये नहीं चलेगा. अगर इनको कश्मीरी पंडित जो यहाँ पे रह रहा है, जिसने यहाँ पे जो Prime Minister also endorsed that the Jamhuriyat and the Kashmiriyat in various speeches. It is because of the Kashmiri Pandits, the Sikhs and the good Muslims in the valley. I am not blaming the entire Muslim population that they are against us. Yeah, but there is some portion of the Muslims who are bent upon to destroy the age-old culture in the valley, which they have done in 1990 also, and same thing happening as on day. But still, I see a ray of hope. If the agencies, as Mr. Ved has said, that they should talk to the stakeholders, because we have to live here. It's not the army, because army officer is coming for 2 months or 3 years or 4 years center, then he leaves the valley for another place. But we as citizens of Kashmir, citizens of India, we have to ensure that the policy should be made people is friendly, and how to what you call to plug the loopholes within the system. That's
okay.
Number one. Number two, I request MC people also and the other people whosoever is watching, that we have to come out now. It's enough that because the Kashmiri is dying, because a UP police, UP CRP wala is dying in the valley. So we don't want that that the orphans, India should become an orphan country within a decade. So my suggestion is that we should work together along with the police. I don't need the army. I don't need the security force. With the police, or with the local people, with the chambers of commerce of industries, with the vendors also, and foremost is that that is the Maulvis of all the mosques. They must issue sermons every Friday prayer.
Okay, and let that be the last word on this news track discussion. The truth, as is often the case with anything in Kashmir, is quite complex and grey. The situation is indeed, as far as terrorism, is getting better. After the abrogation of Article 370, numbers say that and they speak their own story. However, this new phenomena of hybrid terror is a reality. It also shows how the youth now no longer need to go to POK and get indoctrinated. They're getting indoctrinated where they stay there. So their self-motivation levels are high, and we need to find new ways of being able to tackle this new form of terror. We can't be in delusion and over-project accomplishments and make it seem as if things are a lot better than they actually are. We're heading in the right direction. A lot more needs to be done.